Good morning. Good morning, good morning. How's everybody? Good, I hope. You didn't miss anything. I'm right here. Don't stress. We're here making coffee. Yum, yum, yum. Wow, that was weird. Why did she do that? Do we ask ourselves why she does things? No, we don't, because it's pointless. There's no answer. There's no answer. How's everyone this morning? I need more singing from you. My throat is a little bit raw, but the singing will come when it comes naturally, I think. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe this afternoon on book club morning. Maybe I'll sing on, or not on book club, maybe I'll sing on Slime Live later. There will be a Slime Live later for sure. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do on it yet. Well, I'm gonna make slime, obviously, but like in what regard, I don't know. Yes, sing as you make slime. Yeah, that works. That works. It works. I made slime. Oh, yeah, that's very exciting. It's very exciting. It's always a good feeling when the slime comes out correct. I like that. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, AC. How is everyone this Friday morning? Is this a Friday for anyone? Who is it a Friday for? It's obviously not a Friday for me. Y'all know that. Did everyone see the post about restock being on Monday? Did everyone see that? It's Friday for you, Brittany? Awesome. Maybe we're sure. Oh my god, Amanda, that's amazing! I love it. 5 is such a cute age. Try drop 0 coffee syrup. It's not so bad after no afternoons. Oh, I haven't tried that yet. Oh my gosh. I can't open this. There we go. 5 is such a cute age. Nails just listening. Hi, AC. Hi, Mom. Everyone say hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Okay, so if anyone here is not a member of my Patreon, the public restock will be at 5 p.m. on Monday. If you are a part of my Patreon, the pre-order will be, or not the pre-order, the early access will be at 4 p.m. on Monday. And in case anyone did not know, 2 things are happening, 2 specials are happening for new people. One special is for people who want to join Patreon anytime between today and Monday. That special is that I will automatically send the Bingsu slime from a couple of posts ago with your order if you make one, or just like right away, whatever. The other special is if you don't join Patreon, which is totally fine, there's going to be a listing that is only for new people. It's 2 mini slimes, 1 crunchy, 1 soft, and they come with a sticker and borax and the 2 slimes for a newbie cost. So that's fine. Hey Al, what's up? Wait, what are we avoiding thinking about, Tiffany? I missed it. What did I miss? Mom's singing good morning. Mom, what? Do you want to sing good morning song for everyone? My food fixation about which one? Which one, Becca? Which one? Oh my gosh. So we have someone whose kid is turning 5 and someone whose oldest is graduating. Obviously, Amanda's oldest isn't turning 5. Her youngest is turning 5. Oh, it's back. Not much sitting at work with 0 internet feels useless. Yeah, that does feel useless. You're right. You're right. That does feel useless. Well, I don't know. While we're standing around here, hey Valerie, does anyone have any slime questions? Chicken quesadilla would talk about Chipotle sauce. I mean, honestly, that sounds great. Sing the good morning song from Babes in Arms. Good morning, good morning. It's great to stay out late. Good morning to you. Good morning. Sunbeams will soon smile through. Good morning, my darling, to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright. Now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say good night. So good morning, good morning. I sang it wrong. Whatever. Oh well. Let's try that again. Let's see. Good morning, good morning. It's great to stay out late. Good morning, my darling. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright. Now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say goodnight. So good morning, good morning. Sunbeams will soon smile through. Good morning, my darling, to you. And then Mickey Rooney comes in and does his part. No, it's not Max. Why, honey? Why not, baby? Why is it not a good morning? And Sasha says it is. Can it be, please? Yes, that is how the song kind of goes. Here we are, a couple of stay-uppers. Day's done, breakfast time starts it with our suppers. Here we are together, but the best of friends must party. So let me sing this parting song from the bottom of my hearty. That's what he says. He said it isn't good to stay up late. Oh, that's fair, Max. You're right. When she says it's great to stay up late, she's not saying it's good for you. She's saying it feels fun, but you're right. It's not always good for you. Yeah, you're right, honey. I agree. All right. Well, Max, I hope you're going to join us for book club today. We're reading an awesome book. You will love it. We're reading A Tale of Magic, which is phenomenal so far. We're on chapter 3 today. All chapters so far are uploaded to book club. To YouTube, whatever. Yes, I agree with you, Max. I agree. Do you make slime? I do make slime. I said to be nice to Sasha as if you could hear him. He's always nice to me. What are you talking about? Max is so nice to me. Max is the sweetest boy. He's so good to me. Sweet. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything else. We're gonna read Tale of Magic. What? Why would anyone ask if she makes slime? You know what, Max? It's a great question, Max. You're right to be confused. I also get confused when people ask, Max, do you want to hear something funny? There have been times when I am on a live physically making slime on the camera and people come and they ask if I know how to make slime. It's kind of weird because I'm right there and I'm doing it. Or they'll say, do you still make slime? And I'm like, well, if you mean still a minute ago, then yes. If you mean still 30 seconds ago, maybe no. I love the answer though. No, I make cheese, that's right. The answer is yes. Yes. Is anyone doing anything fun this weekend? To be fair, I've seen an insane amount of slime making videos where they use detergent instead of borax. Yeah, you can use detergent instead of borax. It's not great. It doesn't come out good, in my personal opinion. Maybe they are, Max. Maybe they are. I don't like the outcome of Tide slime. It is doable, but I don't think that it comes out good. My skin could never. Yeah, I also don't like the smell of Tide. I'm not a fan of the smell of Tide. Pool party today and then shipping for. Oh, ooh, that's exciting, Manda. I'll give everyone one guess as to where I'll be all weekend. Softball. Did I get it? Come on. Tell me if I'm right. Am I right? My friend is coming over tonight and we're going to make slime. I expect photographs of that. Yeah. I don't do a lot of demanding, but that I demand. Bingo. This weekend between... Oh, that's really sweet, Naisa. That's really, really sweet. This weekend I am working. I'm packing more of y'all's orders. And then on Sunday, I am having brunch with my aunts and uncle and cousins. And then prepping for restock on Monday. That's pretty much what I'm doing all weekend. My wife comes home at 10 p.m. tomorrow. 10 p.m. is late. It's on the later side. That being said, I was packing orders until 1 a.m. last night, so some of you might notice that your tracking order email came in at 1 a.m. That's why. Poor Secret Fiance had to record a tutorial for work yesterday, and the first try he took on it did not take, and it did not save the recording, so he had to do it again, so we were up late. At least I can work on my tan while watching softball. Yeah. I mean, it's gloomy here today, so no tans here. Gloomy. Gloomy. All right, let's read, and then we will have slime live later. Probably like, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock, something like that. Whenever I get back from the post office, we'll do it. Okay. Chapter 3. Oh my gosh. That's really sad, Becca. Poor little baby. Oh my gosh. He's too pale. Too pale. When Zoe was really little, she wouldn't let us like fully rub the sunscreen in. She would like run off before we could get the sunscreen rubbed in. So my sister used to make jokes about her being like a sickly Victorian child because she would be like pale white from the sunscreen being on her. And it was, there goes our sickly Victorian child going for daily constitutional by the lake. It was very funny. Or it was funny to me anyway. I don't know if it's funny to anyone else, but regardless, we are going to have one of those. She's so pale. It was fantastic. Yes. I have pictures of Zoe just like covered in sunscreen that hasn't been rubbed in, and we were like, well, I mean, I guess it's still a barrier in some ways. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 3 is called Justices Only. Bristol read more books in just 2 weeks of cleaning the library than she had in her entire life. By the end of her first month, she had devoured every title on the ground floor and was working her way through the second level. Her quick consumption rate was thanks to an efficient schedule she developed early on. Each evening, Bristol dusted the shelves, mopped the floors, polished the silver globe, and wiped the surfaces as fast as she possibly could. When the cleaning was finished, Bristol selected a book or a few books, if it was the weekend, and snuck them back to her house. Once she was finished washing the dishes for her family's dinner, Bristol would lock herself in her bedroom and spend the rest of the night reading. The following evening, Bristol would return what she had borrowed, and her secret routine would start all over again. Toothpaste. Weird. Bristol couldn't believe how quickly her life had changed. In just 1 month, she went from having an emotional breakdown in public to the most exciting, stimulating time she had ever experienced. Working at the library gave her access to biographies, encyclopedias, dictionaries, anthologies, and textbooks that expanded her grasp of reality, and it introduced her to works of fiction, poetry, and prose that expanded her imagination beyond her wildest dreams. But perhaps the most gratifying of all was Bristol finding the copy of the library's copy of The Tales of Tidbit the Twitch, and finally learning how the story ended. And here's the story.
Tidbit reached in all directions as he fell off the side of the cliff, but there was nothing to grab a hold of. He feared his fall would come to a brutal end against the rocky earth, but by some miracle the mouse plunged into a rushing river instead. The dragon swooped down the cliff and flew over Tidbit as he floated in the river. The monster tried to swipe the mouse from the powerful stream, but the water was moving too fast for the dragon to get a steady grip. Tidbit thrashed around the river as it swept him towards the towering waterfall. As he rolled over the edge, the dragon dived after him with wide open jaws. The mouse was convinced that these were his last moments alive. He would either be consumed by the monster above him or collide with the boulder at the base of the waterfall. As he fell further and further, the dragon dived closer and closer, and soon the creature's sharp teeth encompassed him in mid-air. Just before the monster sank its teeth into the falling mouse, Tidbit fell through a small crack between the boulders at the bottom of the waterfall. He safely dropped into the lake at the river's end, and when Tidbit surfaced in the water, he saw the dragon was spread out across the rocks behind him, lying lifeless with a broken neck. Tidbit washed ashore and took his first deep breaths in years. With the dragon finally defeated, the kingdom of mice was free from their reign of terror at last. The world welcomed a new era of much-needed peace, and it was all thanks to a tiny mouse who braved a big monster. Aww. Aww. Naturally, Bristol's new routine was exhausting. She only managed to sleep for an hour or two each night, but the excitement of getting to read more the next day energized her like a drug. However, Bristol found clever ways of resting so she wasn't entirely sleep deprived. During Mrs. Plume's lesson at school, Bristol tied a quill to her fingers and lowered her gaze so that she appeared to be taking notes, but she was actually taking a much-needed nap instead. On one occasion, while her classmates learned how to apply makeup, Bristol used the supplies to draw pupils on her eyelids so no one would notice that she was sleeping through the demonstrations. At lunch, while the... That's funny. That's funny. At lunch, while the other girls went to the bakery in the town square, Bristol visited the furniture store and tested the products until the owners caught on. On the weekends, Bristol snoozed in between her chores at the Evergreen house. At church, she spent the majority of the service with her eyes closed, pretending to pray. Luckily, her brothers did the same thing, so her parents never noticed. Aside from fatigue, Bristol thought her scheme was going very smoothly, and she didn't face anywhere near as much suspicion as she had feared. She only saw her family for a few minutes each morning, so there wasn't much time for them to question her about her daily activities. Everyone was so focused on Barry's inaugural weeks as the Deputy Justice that they never even asked about her volunteering for the Home for the Hopeless. Still, Bristol had developed stories about feeding the hungry and bathing the sick just in case she needed them. The only hitch happened at the beginning of her second month of employment. One evening, Bristol entered the library to find Mr. Woolsore on his hands and knees, searching under the furniture. Mr. Woolsore, can I help you with something?" she asked. "I'm looking for the Champion of Champions Volume 3, Mr. Woolsore explained. "A student requested it this afternoon and it has vanished from the shelves." Unbeknownst to the librarian, Bristol had borrowed Champions of Champions Volume 3 the night before. She pulled her coat a little tighter around her shoulders so that the librarian wouldn't see that the book was tucked under her arm. "Oh, I'm sure it's here somewhere," she said. "Would you like me to help you look?" No, he grumbled and got to his feet. "The assistant librarian probably filed it incorrectly, that idiot man. Just leave it on the counter if it shows up while you're cleaning." Once Mr. Woolsore was gone, Bristol left Champion of Champions Volume 3 on the counter. It was simple remedy to the simple situation, but Bristol didn't want to experience a closer call to getting caught. So to avoid any future risk, Bristol decided that it would be wise if she stopped sneaking books home altogether. From then on, after she finished cleaning, Bristol stayed at the library to read, and sometimes she didn't return home until the early hours of the morning and had to sneak back into the house through a window. At first, Bristol welcomed the change into her schedule. The empty library was very peaceful at night and the perfect place to get lost in a good book. Sometimes the moon shone so brightly through the glass ceiling that she didn't even need a lantern to see the pages. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before Bristol became too comfortable with the new setup. One morning, Bristol was awoken by the cathedral bells, but they were different this morning. Instead of the distant ring that gradually stirred her awake, the thunderous clanging caused her to jump to her feet. The noise was so sudden and alarming that it was discombobulating. When she finally gained consciousness of her whereabouts, Bristol received a second shock of the morning. She was not standing in her bedroom. She was still at the library. "Oh no," she gasped. "I fell asleep reading. Father will be furious if he realizes I've been gone all night. I have got to get home before Mother notices that my bed is empty." Bristol tucked her reading glasses into the top of her dress and stashed the book that she had been reading into the nearest shelf and ran out of the library as fast as she could. Outside, the cathedral bells were causing a hurricane of noise in the town square. Bristol covered her ears and had trouble staying upright as she was hit by wave after wave of sound. She dashed down the path toward the eastern countryside and reached the Evergreen home just as the final bell tolled. When she arrived, Mrs. Evergreen was standing on the front porch, frantically looking in every direction for her daughter. Her shoulders sank almost an entire foot when she saw Bristol approaching. "Where on God's green earth have you been?" she yelled. "You had me worried half to death. I almost sent the King's Royal Guard." "I am so sorry, Mother," Bristol panted. I can explain. There better be a good reason why you weren't in your bed this morning." It was an accident," Bristol said, and quickly fabricated an excuse. I was up late making beds at the Home for the Hopeless. That the beds looked so comfortable that I couldn't resist lying down. The next thing that I heard, the bells were tolling this morning. Oh, please forgive me, Mother. I'll go inside and I'll do the dishes from dinner right away." Bristol tried to go inside the house, but Mrs. Evergreen blocked the front door. "This isn't about the dishes," her mother said. "You cannot imagine the fright you gave me. I convinced myself you were lying dead in an alley somewhere. Don't you ever do that to me again. Ever." "I won't. I promise," Bristol said. "Honestly, it was just a silly accident. I didn't mean to worry you. Please, don't tell Father about this. If he finds that I was gone all night, he'll never let me volunteer at the Home for the Hopeless again." Bristol was in such a panic that she couldn't tell if her performance was convincing or not. The look behind her mother's eyes was difficult to decipher, too. Mrs. Evergreen seemed convinced and unconvinced all at the same time, like she knew her daughter wasn't telling the truth, but she was choosing to believe her lies. "This, volunteering," Mrs. Evergreen said. "Whatever it entails, you must be more careful if you don't want to lose it. Your father will have no problem taking it away if he thinks you're making irresponsible choices." "I know," Bristol said, "and it'll never happen again. I swear." Mrs. Evergreen nodded and softened her stern glare. "Good. I may only see you for a few minutes each morning, but I can tell volunteering is making you happy," she said. "You've been a different person since you started. It's nice to see you so content. I would hate for anything to change that." It does make me very happy, Mother," Bristol said. "Actually, I didn't realize I could even be so happy." Despite her daughter's excitement, something about Bristol's enthusiasm made Mrs. Evergreen noticeably sad. "Well, that's wonderful, dear," she said with an unconvincing smile. "I'm pleased to hear it." "You don't seem very pleased," Bristol said. "What's the matter, Mother? Am I not supposed to be happy?" "What? No, of course. Everyone deserves a little happiness now and then. Everyone. And nothing makes me happier than knowing you're happy. It's just... What?" Mrs. Evergreen smiled at her daughter again, but this time Bristol knew it was genuine. "I just miss having you around, that's all," she admitted. "Now get upstairs before your father or brothers see you. I'll do the dishes while you wash up. When you've finished, you can help me in the kitchen. Happiness or no happiness, breakfast doesn't cook itself." The following week, Bristol took her mother's advice to heart. To prevent herself from falling asleep at the library again, Bristol limited her nightly reading to just 1 hour after she finished her evening duties. 2 hours at the most if she found something really good. But before packing up and heading home, she didn't get to read nearly as much as she wanted. But any time at the library was better than no time at the library. Late one night, while searching for something to read, Bristol strolled down a long, winding hall on the second floor. Of all the sections in the library, she figured this was the least popular because it was always the one that needed the most dusting. The shelves were filled with collections of old public records and outdated ordinances, so it was no mystery why the hall had been virtually forgotten. As Bristol browsed the shelves at the end of the hall, a book on the very top of the shelf caught her attention. Unlike all the leather-bound records surrounding it, this book had a wooden cover, and it practically blended into the wooden shelf. Bristol had never noticed the strange book before, and she marveled at its peculiar camouflage and began wondering if anyone had noticed it. Could there be books in this library that have never been read before? She wondered aloud. What if I'm the first person to read something? The notion was very exciting. Bristol rolled a ladder to the end of the hall and climbed to the top of the shelf. She tried to retrieve the wooden book, but it wouldn't budge. Well, it's probably been sitting here for centuries, she speculated. Bristol pulled on the book again with all her strength, but it didn't move. Her feet rose off the ladder, and she used all her weight to try to pry it loose, but even that didn't help. No matter how hard she tried, the wooden book wouldn't part from the shelf. It must be nailed down. What kind of sick person would nail a book to... Whoa! Without warning, Bristol and the ladder were knocked to the floor by something large and heavy. When she looked up, Bristol discovered that the entire bookcase had swung away from the wall to reveal a long and dark hallway hidden behind it. She quickly realized that the wooden book wasn't a book at all. It was a lever to a secret door. "Hello?" Bristol nervously called into the hallway. "Is someone there?" The only thing she heard was her own voice echoing back to her. "If anyone can hear me, I'm sorry about this," she said. "I was just cleaning, and the shelf, it just opened. I wasn't expecting to find a door to wherever this creepy hall leads." Once again, there was no reply. Bristol assumed the hidden corridor was just as empty as the rest of the library and didn't see any harm in inspecting it. She retrieved a lantern and slowly walked down the hall to see where it led. At the end of the hallway, Bristol found a wide metal door with a plaque bolted on it. "Justices only." "Justices only?" Bristol read aloud. "That's strange. Why would the justices need a secret room in the library?" She reached for the doorknob, and her heart fluttered when it felt unlocked. The metal door creaked open, and sound echoed into the empty library behind her. Curiosity overpowered her judgment, and before Bristol could stop herself, she had disregarded the sign and stepped through the door. "Hello? Is anyone in here?" she asked. "Innocent maid coming through." Bristol found a small room with a low ceiling on the other side of the door. Luckily, it was just as vacant as she had predicted. The walls had no windows or artwork, but they were lined with black bookcases. The only furniture was a small table and a single chair in the center of the room. An empty candlestick adorned the table, and a coat rack stood beside it with only 2 hooks, one for a hat and one for a coat. Based on the minimal furnishings, Bristol figured it was a room meant for only one justice at a time. She put on her reading glasses and raised her lantern toward a bookcase to see what kind of books were kept in this secret library. To her surprise, the justice's collection was sparse. Each shelf contained less than a dozen titles, and every book was next to a file of paperwork. Bristol selected the thickest book from the nearest shelf and read the cover. History and Other Lies by Robeth Flagworth. The title was difficult to read because the book was coated in ash. Bristol moved her lantern closer and saw that the front cover had been branded with a word in large lettering. Banned. Boom. Banned? Bristol read aloud. Well, that seems silly. Why would anyone ban a book? She flipped to open the book and read the first page that she turned to. After skimming a few paragraphs, Bristol had her answer. One of the greatest deceptions in the recorded history was the reason for the Declawing Act of 339. For hundreds of years, the people of the Southern Kingdom have been told that Champion VIII banished the trolls for acts of vulgarity, but this was nothing but propaganda to disguise a macabre plot against the innocent species. Prior to the Declawing Act of 339, the trolls were respected participants in the Southern Kingdom's society. They were gifted craftsmen and built many of the structures that still stand in Chariot Hills Town Square today. They lived quietly in the caves of the southwest region and were regarded as a peaceful and private minority. In 336, while they're expanding caves in the southwest, the trolls uncovered a large amount of gold. At the time, the Southern Kingdom was crippled with debt from the Four Corners World War. Upon learning of the trolls' newfound wealth, Champion VIII claimed the gold was government property and ordered the trolls to turn it over at once. Legally, the trolls had every right to keep their discovery, and they refused the king's demands. In retaliation, Champion VIII and his high justices orchestrated a sinister plot to tarnish the trolls' reputation. They spread nasty falsehoods about the lifestyle and behavior, and after time, the residents of the Southern Kingdom started to believe the rumors. The king banished the trolls to the in-between and seized their gold, and successfully brought the Southern Kingdom out of debt. Sadly, the leaders of the neighboring kingdoms were inspired by the Decline Act of 339 and used the same method to erase their own debts. Soon, the trolls were unjustly ransacked and exiled from all 4 kingdoms. Other intelligent species came to the trolls' defense, but their efforts only caused them to suffer a similar fate. Together, world leaders instituted the Great Cleansing Act of 345, which expelled all talking creatures other than humans from their kingdom. The troll, elf, ogre, and goblin populations lost their homes and their possessions, and they were forced into harsh environments of the in-between. With the limited resources, the species had no choice but to resort back to the barbaric and primitive survival measures that they had resented and feared, that they have become resented and feared for today. The so-called monsters of the in-between are not humankind's enemies, but humankind's creations. Bristol had to read the excerpt twice before she fully understood what it was saying. Was Robeth Flagworth exaggerating, or was the Decline Act of 339 dishonest as he implied? And judging by the size of his book, if the author was correct, the Southern Kingdom's history was jam-packed with other fabrications. At first, the idea of history being dishonest was difficult for Bristol to comprehend. She didn't want to believe a topic she knew so much about was filled with lies, but the more she thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. After all, the Southern Kingdom was blatantly flawed and an oppressive country. Why should she believe it was an honest place? Bristol continued looking through the bookcases and selected another title that caught her eye. The War on Women by Daisy Peppernickel. Just like the previous book, The War on Women was covered in ash and branded with the word banned. With one quick glance at the pages, Bristol was instantly captivated by the subject matter. The female mind is not a fragile flower pot that we were made to believe. According to many studies on human anatomy, there's no evidence to suggest that a woman's brain is any weaker, slower, or less capable than a man's. And so the question remains, why are we kept from education and positions of power? Because the justices used the oppression of women as an instrument to maintain their grip on the Southern Kingdom. By nature, women are more maternal than men, and if we rule the Southern Kingdom, we would govern on principles of enlightenment, empathy, and nourishment. But the justices in the current court system can only function in a society operated by fear, scrutiny, and punishment. If the country began valuing compassion over control, the justices and their governing techniques would be rendered obsolete. This is why they take every step necessary to prevent women from rising above. From the moment we're born, women are brainwashed to prioritize motherhood and marriage over intellect and personal fulfillment. Well, if this week doesn't sound like it took place in this book. We're handed baby dolls and apron and told our greatest contributions are accomplishments in the nursery and the kitchen. But that lie is as damaging as it is degrading, because a kingdom is only as strong as its weakest citizen, and a society with unjust limitations is less likely to prevail than a country of equal opportunity. When a nation segregates any portion of its population, it only segregates a percentage of its potential. For the sake of the kingdom, it's time for women to stand together and demand a new government that values every citizen's thoughts, ideals, and morals. Then and only then will our country journey into the realms of prosperity that it has never seen before. Bristol's mouth dropped open. It was like she was reading a book of her own thoughts. She had never heard anyone else speak about the things that she believed, let alone seen them in print before. She stacked apparently I can't read. She stacked The War on Women and Hidden History and Other Lies on the table, eager to finish them later. But first she wanted to see what other books were in this secret library. Another enticing title she found was called Losing Faith in Faith by Quint Copamole. Like the previous books, it too had the word banned branded on its cover. Bristol opened the book to a random page to get a sense what this one was about. If the Book of Faith was as pure as the monks claimed that it is, there would be no need to amend it or publish versions over time. However, if you compare the Book of Faith from 100 years ago, you'll discover vast differences between the religion of today and the religions of yesterday. So what does this mean? Has the Lord simply changed his mind over the years? Has the great Almighty corrected his mistakes after being convinced that he was wrong? But wouldn't the very notion of being wrong contradict the all-knowing qualities the Lord supposedly possesses? The truth is, what started as a joyful and loving faith is now a politically motivated ruse to control the people of the Southern Kingdom. Whenever the fear of incarceration is not enough to make people obey the law, the justices alter the principles of the religion and use the fear of eternal damnation, to enforce their agenda. The law and the Lord should be separate entities, but the Southern Kingdom has strategically made them the same. Therefore, any activity or opinion that questions the government is considered sin. And every lifestyle or preference that doesn't expand the population is considered demonic. The Book of Faith no longer reflects the Lord's will, but the will of the men who use the Lord as a tool to manipulate their people. Bristol was absolutely fascinated by Quint Culpamule, what is this name? Culpamule's writing. In all her years attending church, she had never questioned the monks' sermons denouncing murder and theft, but she had always wondered why the monks preached just as passionately about the importance of paying taxes. Now, it appeared, Bristol had her answer. She put Losing Faith in Faith onto the stack and continued reading through the bookcases. The next banned title that gained her interest was called The Injustice of Justices, How the King is Only a Pawn to a Monarchy in Disguise by Sherpal Hinderback. As she moved the book off the shelf, Bristol accidentally knocked over a file of paperwork placed next to it. The document spilled onto the floor and Bristol knelt as she picked up the mess. Until this moment, Bristol hadn't had much interest in the files throughout the bookcases, but now she couldn't help but reading the papers as she restacked them. Among the paperwork was a detailed profile of the author Sherpal Hinderback. It was followed by a long log on Hinderback's whereabouts over a period of years. The addresses became more and more obscure with time, and what started as houses and inns became bridges and caves. The dates of the entries became closer and closer together, as if Hinderback had changed his location more frequently. The log ended with a warrant for the author's arrest, and finally the paperwork concluded with his death certificate. The cause of death was executed for conspiracy against the kingdom. Yeah, Naisa, it sure does. Bristol got to her feet and inspected the files beside the books of Robert the Flagworth, Daisy Peppernickel, and Quint Culpama. Similar to the document of the previous file, she found profiles on those authors, records of their residences, warrants for their arrests, and eventually their death certificates as well. And just like Sherpal Hinderback, each author's cause of death was executed for conspiracy against the kingdom. As if struck by a cold breeze, Bristol had chills and her body went tense. She felt sick to her stomach as she looked around and recognized the small room for what it truly was. This wasn't a private library. It was a graveyard for truth and an archive for people the justices had silenced. They killed them, Bristol said in a shock. They killed them all. In time, the books throughout the secret room would introduce Bristol to an assortment of troubling ideas. Her perspective of the world would change forever, but most troubling of all, one of these books was going to change Bristol's view of herself. And once she read it, she would never look in a mirror the same way again. Heavy, heavy. Sure is. Sure is. Well, you know, is what it is. It was too real. It's true. It was too real. So that's that. Sorry. I'm going to scooch because I got a lot to do and a lot of orders to pack and get to the post office before we do live tonight or this afternoon. But there will be a slime live this afternoon. Do not worry. All good things. Happy Friday to you all. I will see you early to mid-afternoon probably. I don't know exactly, but you know, somewhere in that range, whatever. Bye guys.